March 6th, we back in the building. Matthew chapter 11, 1 through 19. Jesus and John the Baptist. When Jesus had finished giving these instructions to his 12 disciples, he went off teaching and preaching in towns throughout the country. John the Baptist, who was now in prison, heard all the things the Messiah was doing. So he sent his disciples to ask Jesus, "Are you really the Messiah we've been waiting for, or should we keep looking for someone else?" Jesus told them, "Go back to John and tell him about what you have heard and seen. The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cured, and the deaf hear, and the dead are raised to life, and the good news is being preached to the poor. And tell him, God blesses those who are not offended by me." When John's disciples had gone, Jesus began talking about him to the crowds. "Who is this man in the wilderness that you went out to see? Did you find him weak as a reed, moved by every breath of wind? Or were you expecting to see a man dressed in expensive clothes? Those who dress like that live in palaces, not out in the wilderness. Were you looking for a prophet? Yes, and he is more than a prophet. John is the man whom the scriptures refer when they say, 'Look, I am sending my messenger before you, and he will prepare your way before you.' I assure you, of all who have ever lived, none is greater than John the Baptist. Yet the most insignificant person in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he is. And from the time of John the Baptist began preaching and baptizing until now, the kingdom of heaven has forcibly advanced, and violent people attack it. For before John came, all the teachings of the scriptures looked forward to this present time. And if you are willing to accept what I say, he is Elijah, the one the prophets said would come. Anyone who is willing to hear should listen and understand. How shall I describe this generation? These people are like a group of children playing a game in the public square. They complain to their friends, 'We played wedding songs and you weren't happy. So we played funeral songs, but you weren't sad. For John the Baptist didn't drink wine, and he often fasted. And you say, he's demon-possessed. And I, the Son of Man, feast and drink, and you say, he is a glutton, and he is a drunkard, and a friend of the worst sorts of sinners. But wisdom is shown to be right by what results from it." Matthew 11, 1 through 11, 19. On over to Leviticus 11 and 12. Ceremonially clean and unclean animals. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Give these instructions to the Israelites. The animals you may use for food include those who have completely divided hooves and chew the cud. You may not, however, eat the animals named here because either have split hooves or chew the cud, but not both. The camel may not be eaten, for though it chews the cud, it does not have split hooves. The same is true with the rock badger and the hare, so they may never be eaten. And the pig may not be eaten, for it has split hooves. It does not chew the cud. You may not eat the meat of these animals or touch their dead bodies. They are ceremonially unclean for you. As for marine animals You may eat whatever has both fins and scales, whatever is taken from fresh water or salt water. You may not, however, eat marine animals that do not have both fins and scales. You are to detest them, and they will always be forbidden to you. You must never eat the meat or even touch their dead bodies. I repeat, the marine animals that does not have both fins and scales is strictly forbidden to you. These are the birds you must never eat because they are detestable for you: the eagle, the vulture, the osprey, the buzzard, kites of all kinds, ravens of all kinds, the ostrich, the nighthawk, the seagull, hawks of all kinds, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the white owl, the pelican, and the carrion vulture, the stork, herons of all kinds, the hoopoe, and the bat. You are to consider detestable all swarming insects that walk along the ground. However, there are some exceptions that you may eat. These include insects that jump with their hind legs, locusts of all varieties, crickets, bald locusts, and grasshoppers. All these may be eaten. But you are to consider detestable all other swarming insects that walk or crawl. The following creatures make you ceremonially unclean. If you touch any of their dead bodies, you will be defiled until evening. If you move the dead body of an unclean animal, you must immediately wash your clothes, and you will remain defiled until the evening. Any animal that divides but unsplit hooves or does not chew the cud is unclean to you. If you touch the dead body of such an animal, you will be defiled until evening. Of the animals that walk on all fours, those that have paws are unclean for you. If you touch the dead body of such an animal, you will be defiled until evening. If you pick up and move its carcass, you must immediately wash your clothes, and you will be defiled until evening. Of the small animals that scurry or creep on the ground, these are unclean for you: the mole, the mouse, the great lizard of all varieties, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the common lizard, the sand lizard, and the chameleon. All these small animals are unclean for you. If you touch the dead body of such an animal, you will be defiled until evening. If such an animal dies and falls on something, that object, whatever its use, will be unclean. This is true whether the object is made of wood, cloth, leather, sackcloth. It must be put into the water and it will remain defiled until evening. After that, it will be ceremonially cleaned and may be used again. If the animal dies and falls into a clay pot, everything in that clay pot will be defiled. The pot must be smashed. If the water used to cleanse an unclean object touches any food, all that food will be defiled. And any beverage that is in such an unclean container will be defiled. Any object on which the dead body of an animal falls will be defiled. If it is a clay oven or cooking pot, it must be smashed into pieces. It has been defiled and will remain that way. However, if a dead body touches an animal, if the dead body of such an animal falls into a spring or cistern, the water will still be clean. But anyone who removes the dead body will be defiled. If the dead body falls on a seed of grain to be planted in the field, the seed will still be considered clean. But if the seed is wet, when the dead body falls on it, the seed will be defiled. If an animal is permitted for eating, if an animal that is permitted for eating dies and you touch its carcass, you will be defiled until evening. If you eat any of its meats and carry away its carcass, you must wash your clothes, then remain defiled until evening. Consider detestable any animal that scurries along the ground. Such animals may never be eaten. This includes all animals that slither along on their bellies, as well as those with 4 legs and those with many feet. All such animals are to be considered detestable. Never defile yourselves by touching such animals. After all, I the Lord am your God. You must Be holy, because I am holy. So do not defile yourselves by touching any of these animals that scurry along the ground. I, the Lord, am the one who brought you up from the land of Egypt to be your God. You must therefore be holy, because I am holy. These are the instructions regarding the land animals, the birds, and the living things that move throughout the water or swarm over the earth. So you can distinguish between what is clean and what may not be eaten, and what is unclean and may not be eaten, and what is clean and may be eaten. Purification after childbirth. Leviticus 12. The Lord said to Moses, "Give these instructions to the Israelites. When a woman becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son, she will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, just as she is defiled during her menstrual period. On the eighth day, the boy must be circumcised. Then the woman must wait 33 days until the time of her purification from the blood of the child is completed. During this time of purification, she must not touch anything that is holy. She must not go to the sanctuary until her time of purification is over." If a woman gives birth to a daughter, she will be ceremonially defiled for 2 weeks, just as she is defiled during her menstrual period. She must then wait 66 days to be purified from the blood of childbirth. When the purification is completed, for either a son or daughter, the woman must bring a year-old lamb for a whole burnt offering and a young pigeon or turtle dove for a purification offering. She must take her offering to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will then present them to the Lord and make atonement for her. She will be ceremonially clean again after her bleeding at childbirth. These are the instructions to be followed after the birth of a son or daughter. If a woman cannot afford to bring a sheep, she must bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. One will be for the whole burnt offering, and the other will be for the purification offering. The priest will sacrifice them, thus making atonement for her, and she will be ceremonially clean. Finishing today in Proverbs 24. Proverbs 24. Don't envy evil people. Don't desire their company. For they spend their days plotting violence, and their words are always stirring up trouble. A house is built by wisdom and becomes strong enough through good sense. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with all sorts of precious riches and valuables. A wise man is mightier than a strong man. A man of knowledge is more powerful than a strong man. So don't go to war without wise guidance. Victory depends on having many counselors. Wisdom is too much for a fool. When the leaders gather, the fool has nothing to say. A person who plans evil will get a reputation as a troublemaker. The schemes of a fool are sinful. Everyone despises a mocker. If you fail under pressure, your strength is not very great. Rescue those who are unjustly sentenced to death. Don't stand back and let them die. Don't try to avoid responsibility by saying you didn't know about it. For God knows all hearts, and He sees you. He keeps watch over your soul, and He knows you knew. And He will judge all people according to what they have done. My child, eat honey, for it is good, and the honeycomb is sweet to taste. In the same way, wisdom is sweet to your soul. If you find it, you will find a bright future, and your hopes will not be cut short. Do not lie and wait like an outlaw at the home of the godly, and do not raid the house where the godly live. They may trip 7 times, but each time they will rise again. But one calamity is enough to lay the wicked low. Do not rejoice when your enemies fall into trouble. Don't be happy when they stumble, for the Lord will be displeased with you and will turn his anger away from them. Do not fret because of evildoers. Don't envy the wicked, for the evil have no future. Their light will be snuffed out. My child, fear the Lord and the king, and don't associate with rebels, for you will go down with them in sudden disaster. Who knows where the punishment from the Lord and the king will end? More sayings of the wise. Here's some further sayings of the wise. It is wrong to show favoritism when passing judgment. A judge who says to the wicked, you are innocent, will be cursed by many people and denounced by the nations. But blessings are showered on those who convict the guilty. It is an honor to receive an honest reply. Develop your business first before building your house. Do not testify spitefully against an innocent neighbor. Don't lie about them, and do not say, now I can pay them back for all their meanness to me. I'll get even. I walked by a field of a lazy person, the vineyard of one lacking sense. I saw that it is overgrown with thorns. It was covered with weeds, and its walls were broken down. Then, as I looked and thought about it, I learned this lesson. A little extra sleep, a little more slumber, a little fondling of the hands to rest, and poverty will pronounce on you like a bandit. Scarcity will attack you like an armed robber. Proverbs 24. Amen. That's our daily reading for the day. Stay blessed.